The text said, "Only family is going." 4 words that took the air out of my kitchen without moving a single curtain. My daughter-in-law sent it as if she were reading off a weather report and I was a cloud she could reroute. My son followed it with nothing at all, which said more than he knew. I stood there with my hand on the counter I bought on sale after my husband died, and the quiet made a ring around me like chalk. Only family. I had given that boy an entire house, paid for, roof tight, taxes current, and fed the pantry like a second job. I had kept their light bill from blinking and their cars from complaining. And still, only family. My name is Olivia. I am the age where you keep your tea hot on the back burner and your paperwork where you can reach it without getting on a chair. I was born in a part of California where the wind carries dust and gossip in equal measure. I married once, to a man who could fix a fence with the patience of a hymn and who laughed with his face first. He died between holidays, as if he didn't want to steal anyone's thunder. I learned how to sleep on one side of the bed and how to speak to pictures without asking them to answer back. After he was gone, my son said, "Mom, let us take care of you." I believed him. Belief is a door that opens even when you're not ready to go out. I put the deed to the little yellow bungalow in a folder labeled house and carried it to the title office myself, hands clean, eyes steady. I kept it in my name, because age teaches you that love is not a form you sign away. But I gave my son the keys and said, "Live. Raise your boy. Let your wife hang curtains without asking anyone's permission." I told him to treat the place like his, and he did, right up until he forgot whose name holds weight when paper speaks. Maybe I should tell you what the house smelled like when I handed it over, lemon oil and the last good peaches of summer. The porch sagged a little, like an old friend deciding to sit. The mailbox creaked hello in the afternoons. The neighbor's dog had never learned to whisper. I stood with my son on the walk, and he put his arm around me and called me Mama the way he did when he needed to borrow the truck. He promised Sunday dinners, and for a while the promise kept. Trouble didn't knock. It slid under the door as mail. Offers with my name on them for cards I hadn't asked for. Statements I didn't recognize with balances that belonged to someone's mistake. "Junk," my daughter-in-law said, cheerful as bleach. "We'll toss it." She tossed fast. I learned to check the trash the way you check weather, a glance that turns into a habit. I found my name there more than once, standing up like it didn't know it had been thrown away. When the cruise text came, "Only family is going," it felt less like a surprise and more like the end of a long sentence I hadn't realized I was reading. I had spent 3 years tucking money into a fund labeled vacation for them, because grief had made our table bigger than our appetite and I wanted us near bright water, laughing without rehearsing. I paid deposits when their card ran glitchy. I covered a deposit for adjoining cabins because it's easier to keep the keto settled. I didn't mind. Love counts receipts differently. But love does count. I set my phone face down next to the sugar bowl and listened to the house breathe. The light fell across the tablecloth like a soft fact. The kettle began to think about singing. "Only family," I said aloud, testing the shape of the words. Do you ever notice how people use the word family like a key that opens only one side of the door? Who gets to decide what counts? Who taught them that? Who benefits? I didn't answer their message. I did something stranger, I made a list. Lists have a way of turning fear into errands. I wrote, bank. Title. Attorney. Friend. The words looked like steps I could climb without tripping on my own forgiveness. I called May, who has known me since I had bangs and thought. Casseroles were a personality. "Come sit," she said. "Bring the folder." I carried the folder to her kitchen like a baby bird that needed a warm hand. We spread my life on the table, tax bills paid on time, the deed with my name where it counts, insurance, the amortization schedule that ends with the word satisfied. Tucked between the honest papers was a photocopy I had never made, my signature, or something dressed up to look like it, on a line that said power of attorney. The date was a Thursday I remember perfectly, Because on Thursdays I play cards at the senior center and eat a tuna melt I've been faithful to for 9 years. I do not sign important documents between hands of rummy. That's not your hand, May said, pointing to the loop in the Y that has never belonged to me. My Ys mind their own business. Whoever had caught mine tried to make it dance. The next morning, we took the folder to an attorney who practices 3 blocks from the courthouse and keeps a bowl of lemon drops on the desk for nerves that don't want a conversation. Ms. Delgado read, and the reading put a furrow between her eyes that could have plowed a small field. "Do you trust me to pull a thread here?" she asked, voice like a well-made door, solid, kind. I nodded. She made calls, the kind with her pen ready to write down names that would matter later. Banks. The title office. A notary whose stamp had landed too close to my future. By noon, my credit report was a Christmas tree decorated by strangers. Accounts I hadn't opened. Inquiries I hadn't invited. A loan application pending at a lender with a name that thinks it's friendly. Transfers from my savings labeled with words only a thief would think were subtle: family fund, school, house improvement. "They've been using your name," Ms. Delgado said. "Moving money, preparing documents. On paper, they are rehearsing the day they say you don't own what you own." She asked me if I needed water. The throat can forget to swallow when it feels like it has to speak and breathe at once. I wanted to be the kind of woman who throws a fit and knocks over a chair. I wanted to be the kind of woman who cries into her sleeve and becomes legend at the bank. Instead, I became the kind of woman who signs where it will count. We froze my credit. We froze accounts that could be unhooked without starving me. We changed the online passwords that had lived too long under the mat. We placed a fraud alert with the 3 bureaus, the way you nail a notice to the door when the town needs to read it. We drafted a letter to the title office: any transfer, any lien, any whisper of activity on the parcel where my porch leans, call me, call my attorney, call the loudest bell you've got. That night, my son texted, this time the kind of sentence you send when you're juggling something you don't want to drop. "Hey Mom, can we borrow your card for an excursion? We'll pay you back." There it was. So easy. So small. So ordinary. "No," I wrote, and the word sat there like a chair with 4 good legs. He didn't answer. My daughter-in-law did. "Wow. After everything we've done for you?" The laugh tore out of me before I could help it. After everything. If your heart is beating harder because something in this sounds like your house, leave one small word below, here or begin or enough. Sometimes the right word is the plank we use to cross the cold water. And if you want to walk the rest of this with me, you can subscribe. We don't shout here. We set out chairs and tell the truth. I was a young mother in a narrow kitchen when I learned the trick of turning fear into chores. I cleaned the oven after midnight while the baby slept and the bills lined up like soldiers waiting for orders. I survived a year of layoffs by alphabetizing the pantry. It's the same magic now, just different shelves. Ms. Delgado gave me homework. Call the bank manager. Ask for the security officer by name. Verify every auto-pay that even thinks it belongs to you. Cancel any card that can't answer who it is in 3 questions. The work doesn't heal the wound, but it stops the bleeding long enough to stitch. The bank manager was a woman. With a firm handshake and a sharper memory. "Ms. Olivia, we've met," she said. "Mortgage burning party, 2 summers ago, you brought lemon bars." I liked her immediately. She brought up my accounts on a screen that made my life look both small and precise. "There," I said, pointing to transfers I hadn't blessed. She zoomed. Dates. Times. IP addresses from a house I pay to heat. "Do you want to file?" she asked. "Yes," I said, not because I wanted anyone in cuffs, but because I wanted the paper to say what my bones already knew. We moved our meeting into a small room where serious things sit and wait their turn. A compliance officer joined us. He smelled like coffee and policies. We printed, we signed, we stapled in the good corners. We corrected my contact number to the one my daughter-in-law doesn't answer, and set the alert so tight it squeaks. If a mouse blinks at this account, call Olivia. On the way out, the manager pressed a business card into my palm. That's my cell, she said. I like to know when good women are being messed with. I put the card behind my driver's license, where it would sit like a spine. May drove me to the title office. The clerk knew my parcel number by heart. Small towns keep lists longer than they admit. Any filings? I asked. The clerk tilted the screen. A quitclaim deed had been prepared but never recorded, my name, the wrong hand again, giving away what I hadn't given. A notarization at a strip mall shop that sells mailbox rentals, and hope to people who should be more careful. We'll flag it, the clerk said. And I'll call Delgado myself if anyone breathes on your folio. She handed me a copy of the would-be theft as if it were evidence in a museum exhibit called How Not To. The next day, a new piece of mail arrived, already angry. Past due, it said, on a credit line that didn't belong to my vocabulary. I walked it to Delgado's office and laid it on the lemon drop bowl like a snake on an altar. Good, she said. Proof has a face now. She took pictures and named the faces: wire fraud, forgery, identity theft. This is the part where I tell you something you've always known, she added. You're not crazy. You're generous. They bet on that. We're done letting them place wagers with your name. I don't believe in revenge. It keeps you up and steals your groceries. I do believe in consequences, which are just facts arriving dressed for work. Delgado asked if I wanted to move out of the house I was still in, but my little place was mine, and it had learned my steps so well it didn't catch me when I turned corners. I changed the locks anyway. I put a camera by the door that sends my niece more photos of delivery men than she deserves. I told the neighbors I trust that if they see anyone with my cheekbones trying my windows, call me, the police, and the lady who runs the HOA with a clipboard like a weapon. My son texted a picture of my grandson the next morning, cheeks bright with breakfast, captioned, "He misses you." I miss him too. Missing is not a currency to be traded for access to my bank accounts. Kiss his forehead for me twice, I wrote. I'll see him when I see him. My daughter-in-law sent an emoji of a face doing acrobatics with its eyes. I turned my phone over and watched the steam from my cup climb the sunlight like a gentle ladder. Why not tell them you know? May asked me that afternoon, pouring soup the way you pour courage, steady, without waste. Because they'll run to the papers before I finish sharpening my pencil, I said. Because thieves dislike daylight and will switch off every lamp in the house and call it love. Delgado agreed. Quiet first, she said. Then clean. Do you think forgiveness means leaving every door unlocked? Do you think family means your name is a credit card left on the counter for anyone who says please with the right tone? I used to. Now I think forgiveness is the fence you build so you can sit in your own yard without watching the gate. Now I think family is the table where everyone brings a dish and washes their own plate. If you're here and you've ever had to relearn the difference between mercy and permission, leave me one practice that steadies you. 3 facts in the morning. A walk. A prayer. A photograph you. Hold until your heartbeat remembers its job. Share it below. Someone will borrow your courage and return it in better condition. They left for their cruise on a Saturday, bright as a brochure, matching luggage like a teen uniform. My grandson waved through a car window smeared with the fingerprints of optimism. My son texted me a half-hearted heart. My daughter-in-law sent me a list of things she assumed I would do while they were gone: water the plants, sign for a package, check the mail. The audacity felt almost tender, like a child handing you a plastic watch and telling you to keep time. I replied, enjoy the ocean. I'll enjoy my week. She sent back a thumbs up that tried very hard to be a fist. Delgado had been waiting for the boarding photos. Now, she said. She had assembled a team the way some women assemble a dressing for salad, knowing exactly how much bite we'd need. A forensic accountant with eyes like graph paper. A notary whose stamp earns its keep. A realtor who speaks in numbers until the deal is done and then calls you sweetheart. We met in Delgado's conference room where the blinds know secrets and the chairs forgive long days. Here is the story we will tell in paper, Delgado began. Owner decides to sell her property. Owner gathers proof of fraud, secures accounts, and chooses peace. Owner owes no one an apology. I went to the house with a locksmith and a box of those fat black markers that make truth look permanent. I stepped into rooms that had learned new names without asking me. Toys declared themselves gods of the carpet. A framed quote in the hallway said family is everything, and I said to it, family is not forgery. I took my things, the quilt my mother made from old dresses that still remember conversations, the china I had almost sold to pay for their first anniversary party, the picture of my husband with a fish so large he looks like a liar if you weren't there. I left what wasn't mine, the couch that never learned to listen, the smart TV that gossips to the internet, the jar of coins labeled vacation fund that had my handwriting and somebody else's attitude. I set a note on the counter, please direct all questions to counsel. I signed it with a pen that knows me. The realtor, Joy Fitting, walked the property like a nurse taking vitals. She's a good little house, she said, patting the lintel. Wants to be loved by someone who remembers what a broom is for. We listed the bungalow on Tuesday with photographs that made the porch lean a little less and the lemon tree show off. The offers came like geese, noisy, insistent, some ridiculous, one perfect. Cash, clean, 30-day close, buyers who had been turned down 3 times and were ready to cry from luck. Delgado nodded. Take it. I signed with my hand that belongs to me. The notary watched me like a guard dog and a guardian angel. Congratulations, he said with a stamp that sounded like a door closing politely. We scheduled closing for the Thursday before their return. Delgado notified the bank that any attempt to use my accounts should dress for court. The forensic accountant built a binder thick as a family Bible, tabs and all, transfers, timelines, screenshots of signatures that don't know how to be me. We filed reports where reports wake up judges. We sat very still and drank the kind of water that remembers to be cold. The night before closing, my son texted a photo of their ship cutting the kind of blue that does not exist in any paint box I own. Wish you were here, he wrote, and if you've never tasted irony that fresh, I don't know how to explain the flavor. My fingers typed 3 words all by themselves, I am here. Here in my life. Here at my table. Here with the pen in my hand and the deed in my name. I did not send it. I set the phone down and let the ocean be beautiful for the people on it. Closing day arrived as unremarkable as a miracle. We sat at a table with fruit in a bowl and pens that had opinions. The buyers brought a child who played with a toy bulldozer on a legal pad and carved a bright road. We lost out 3 times, the mother said, not apologizing for the tears. We thought maybe the city was telling us to stay renters. The city says a lot of foolishness, I told her. Ignore the parts that don't see you. We signed. We shook hands. A wire moved money from a bank that had learned my face to an account that sits higher than fear. The realtor handed me a key on a ring with a small blue house as if I were a new woman. I am. We changed the locks at noon for the buyers. We placed a tasteful sign with sold as if the word were a blessing. We took the last bag to May's trunk. I stood on the sidewalk and said goodbye to the lemon tree like a person, which is what it had been to me, stubborn, fragrant, faithful. You will be fine, I told it. You always have been. That evening, a neighbor texted me a photo of my daughter-in-law's car rolling slow past the bungalow. The new owners were inside, laughing the laugh of people who just did a brave thing. My son's taillights paused, then went on. They don't know yet, May said, and I said, they will. The truth has excellent posture. If you are listening and some part of you is afraid to draw a line because you've been taught lines are rude, hear me, lines are love with a ruler. Tell me one boundary you made this year that let you breathe deeper. Put it below. And if these words steady you, follow along. This porch stays lit for women who keep the receipts and the recipes. They asked to meet when they returned. Not an apology. A demand dressed as a dialogue. We need to talk, my son wrote, and I chose the coffee shop with windows that make lying a complicated sport. I wore my good blue because blue makes the truth feel seen. May sat 2 tables away with a magazine upside down, the way a friend does when the stakes have names. My son arrived last. My daughter-in-law came first, moving the air with her like a cape. She sat without asking and arranged her face into something pained and pretty. How could you, she began, before hello. How could you sell our home while we were gone? I stirred my coffee with a spoon that had no intention of helping. It is not your home, I said, soft enough to keep the cups from listening. It never was. I let you live in it. That generosity ended when you turned my name into a tool. She blinked the way people blink when the weather refuses to change for them. We improved it, she said. We made it nicer than you ever did. She spoke like a realtor who had learned empathy as stagecraft. My son looked small in a way that reminded me of chickenpox, something he should have outgrown. Mom, he said, and the word tried to climb back into my heart. You blindsided us. No, I said. You wrote a script where I did not exist, and you're upset that I refused to take the stage directions. I slid a folder across the table, copies, not originals. The fake power of attorney. The loan application I didn't file. Transfers from my account labeled family. Do you deny this? I asked, and I watched their faces do math neither of them had practiced, what to admit, what to blame, where to land. We were trying to consolidate, she said. We thought we could protect you from yourself. You tried to protect me from my house, I answered. And then from my money. And then from my name. My son reached across the table like a child asking to be excused. We're family, he said. Family forgives. Yes, I said. And family repents. The word hung there like something heavy enough to build with. You gambled with my trust, I added. You lost. There it was, the sentence I had been walking toward without knowing its address. He asked for money. Of course he did. We put deposits down, he said. We have bills. We need help. Need. Help. Words that used to move me like puppets. There is a lawyer, I said. There is a file. If you have legal questions, ask her. If you have moral ones, ask the mirror. My daughter-in-law's pretty mask flexed. We'll sue, she said, trying on courage. For what? I asked. For the right to continue treating me like a wallet? She stood up the way people stand when they want the room to hand them a cape. The room handed her sunlight she couldn't use. My son waited. He looked exactly like his father for one quick moment, the forehead knit, the mouth almost deciding to be kind. Mom, he said. Please. I softened where I could. I love you, I told him. From here. I put my hand on the table, palm down, as if to show him where here is. If you want to begin again one day, we will sit with someone who knows how to hold pain without turning it into furniture. Until then, no. They left in a flurry of righteous weather. May exhaled a laugh that had been waiting its turn. You didn't shake, she said. I shook inside, I answered. The body keeps minutes. We split a muffin like a victory that didn't need ceremony. Delgado texted, all filings received. All accounts secured. Proceed to peace. That afternoon, I drove past the bungalow one last time like a woman who knows how to look without wanting. The new owners had put out a blue bowl for a neighborhood cat and hung a string of lights that made the porch look like a place for long talk. A child's drawing was taped to the glass, house, sun, 2 stick figures holding hands. It felt right. Houses deserve to be loved by people who understand what a roof is for. If you're still with me, tell me one sentence you wish you had said the day someone mistook your kindness for permission. Then say it now, even if you only whisper. And if this story keeps your back a little straighter, subscribe so we don't lose each other in the noise. This is how we keep a circle. Peace did not arrive as a parade. It came as a calendar that stopped making threats. I woke up and named 3 facts so small they cannot lie. The cup is warm. The window is open. The light is kind. On the 4th day, I added, my name belongs to me. I put fresh folders in the drawer, health, home, hope, and laughed at myself for the flourish. I cleaned the stove the way you clean something that didn't do anything wrong. I took a nap at 2 and let the sun supervise. I still see my grandson. I'm careful how. Ice cream in public where love can hold hands with boundaries. Books on a bench where a story can do the explaining I don't owe. We build Lego houses with locks that work, and I tell him there are rooms you enter by invitation and rooms you keep. He tells me dinosaurs and facts about space and the joke his teacher told wrong. You're funny, I say, and he answers, you're my grandma, like the 2 facts are the same size. When he asks about the cruise in the way children ask about whether they were told not to notice, I say, grown-ups forgot how to share, and we divide an orange into fair halves and a generous extra piece for whoever needs it. On Sundays I sit 3 pews from the back, where the light gets tired and soft. When the sermon turns to prodigals and homecomings that ask nothing, I think about how daughters rarely get a parable. I hum anyway. I light a candle for my husband and tell him the lemon tree is in good hands. I tell him I sold the house and kept myself. Proud of you, I hear, the way you hear a familiar step on an old stair. I started having tea on the porch with women who know the price of silence. We call ourselves the ledgers because we balance what the world owes us against what we owe ourselves and forgive as often as it helps. We take small trips by bus and ferries that don't mind our laugh. We sit in waiting rooms with each other so a name doesn't have to walk alone when it's called. We teach each other how to read contracts and recipes, which turn out to be cousins. We practice saying no the way you practice a scale until your hands don't have to look at the keys. Every now and then a letter arrives from a lender that hasn't gotten the memo. We copy it to Delgado and put it in the binder, which whispers to me in its fat voice, we remember. Remembering is not the same as reliving. Remembering is just bookkeeping for the soul. My son writes sometimes. Short notes that ask how I am in a tone that wants to be congratulated for the question. I answer when it doesn't cost my sleep. He asked once if I could advance him something until payday. I wrote back, I hope payday treats you well, and set my phone down without apology. Do I forgive them? Yes. But forgiveness is not a key I hand to anyone who can spell my name. Forgiveness is the fence that lets me plant tomatoes without worrying who will come into the yard at night. Justice is the lock. Love is the light I leave on, not for them, for me, so I can find my way back to the steps after dark. I do not pray for them to be punished. I pray for them to be useful, and for them to become people who do not mistake a mother's patience for a line of credit. If this story put a hand on your back and helped you stand, leave one word so the next person knows where to land, here, beginning, home. Tell me one small habit that keeps your name belonging to you. And if you want this circle to be waiting the next time the world tries to talk you out of your worth, subscribe. Not for numbers. For company. For the quiet relief of hearing someone say the thing you needed said in a voice that won't shout. At night, I rinse the cup and set it upside down on the towel like a promise. I check the lock because I can and because I want to. I fold the folder back into its drawer, not where it hides, where it lives. I speak 3 facts into the evening until my breath agrees. The cup is warm. The window is open. The light is kind. I add the 4th that brought me here. My name belongs to me. I am Olivia. I kept my house, I sold my house, I kept myself.